Hi everyone, welcome to another week of trail runs, and we've got trail tales for you this week. I'm joined by Jodie Gauld, who is a trail runner who has done some pretty amazing challenges and visited some quite amazing places as well. So Jodie's gonna chat to us about her experiences of trail running, ultra running, and yeah, I guess working out what her next challenge is going to be. Thanks for joining me, Jodie.
Hi, Tom. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Listened to a few of your podcasts and excited, and it's kind of strange that I'm now being I'm going to be on it.
No, it's awesome. It's I when I think of people who have done some crazy things and been and visited and ran in some pretty inspirational places, you always come to mind. So I want to hear some more about what you've been doing. But to get us started, I guess I'm interested to know how you got into trail running, because that is your thing, really, isn't it? From what I see, what kind of propelled you in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, definitely trail running is for me. The legs sort of know they've hit road and slow down if that happens, if I find tarmac. So definitely trails, and more technical the better, to be honest. I love it. Yeah, I've kind of always run, like even as a child. Sports day PE is my favorite. I never really stopped running. And I guess probably like most kids did, I was part of like an athletics team as a teen and this sort of thing. So I did a few track events. But I grew up in the countryside, so running around barefoot in the fields and over rock, like I live by the coast in Cornwall, so running over rock pools and things like this barefoot as like quick as you can to get to like the biggest pool at the other end because someone's just seen a fish in there or something. I think I recently thought that maybe that's why I quite like technical things, like I would climb all over things. And actually where we live in Cornwall, it's right on the like sort of in the clay country, so there's loads of clay mines around. So I'm not sure if I should even be saying this. There's plenty of permissive paths along the clay trails, but I guess I sort of also grew up sort of scampering around those. So I think I probably really recently realized that maybe that's quite a few little elements sort of just ingrained, that trail feels more natural. But yeah, I sort of never stopped running, and it
Yeah,
wasn't until I was maybe like, I think I was like 20. Some friends, it was while I was at uni, but they weren't uni friends. I was taking part in a circuit training group outside of the university, and if the hall was ever shut where we did the workouts, we would go out for a run. And they all do this annual trip up to the lakes to take part in Lakeland.
oh cool.
So they just invited me to go and take part in Lakeland 50 one time. And I know you've done Lakeland 100. I've seen you there and you absolutely smashed it. So I know you know the route really well. And also just how amazing it is up there and what a community like there is on the checkpoints, but at the campsite, in the hall, like everything about it. And I think it just, I said yes, not having done any other events ever except a track 1500 or something.
Wow.
And I loved it, but it was sort of like I went there as without knowing what 50 miles was, and there were people there that were hiking 50 miles, so there was sort of no pressure. I got around and was like, oh, this has killed me, but the next day I was sort of like, yeah, no, I like this.
That's it's quite a big one to start with. I don't know if when I spoke to Katie on here as well, that was kind of her first experience of going in for the kind of ultras. So there must be something about the Lakeland 50 that captures people's imagination. But it is a spectacular place to run, and I think, like you say, especially in trail running and that event as well, the sense of community, it just makes it, because it's quite a small event. there's not that many people there really in the grand scheme of things. But I think it's all the like support and camaraderie that really makes that what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is definitely that. I mean, one, it's an absolutely beautiful place. And sort of, I remember going along, looking up the whole time and thinking, this is amazing. I'd never been to the Lake District. And I think maybe that planted the seed of like, okay, you can run these places, like where else can you go in the world and discover? And okay, if I can meet the checkpoints in time, I don't care how long it's going to take. I just want to see all these places. But you're also totally right in that. I mean, one, it was a bunch of friends that sort of invited me and said, you can do this, come and join us. This is really great. It was sort of like, oh, I'm being welcomed into this world with like open arms. And then you get there and everyone else there is exactly the same. They're like chatting to you along the way, talking to you about loads of different things. And it was sort of just like, all barriers were down. It's like you didn't know if that person was a top lawyer or the complete opposite. Everyone was in running gear and picking up a packet of crisps at the checkpoint.
Yeah. Well, everyone's there for the same reasons, aren't they?
Yeah,
exactly. At the end of the day, which I love, that you just meet loads of people from different backgrounds who are doing these things all for the love of running and being outside and seeing cool places. How did you do much training for that one then?
I think I did. Like it was quite a while ago now, but yeah, I think I scared myself. I didn't really know what the distance was, and I was still at uni, so I think my sort of endurance was partying through the night and getting up for a run and going to my lectures. But I think but it was also relatively flat. Like looking back now, I think I had no idea what hills were. Like luckily I've grown up in Cornwall. It was a bit hilly around here, but nothing.
Where were you training? Where was university?
Worcester. So we had the Malvern Hills, which was great, but I didn't know anything about reps or things like this or getting in an elevation. I remember, I think my longest run was like a run along the road to the like next town. And I think it was 20 miles and probably like 5 meters ascent.
Yeah. So the Lakeland changed your perspective of how to train for those sort of things.
Yeah.
So where did the journey take you next then after that? Were you feeling kind of inspired to do more events and I don't know, kind of keep the trail running going?
Yeah, I think I discovered that and was like, this is amazing. It's an amazing bunch of people. And I had also bumped into a few people up there who were from Cornwall, from my hometown. And I was finishing uni and returning back to Cornwall for a bit of time. And I took part in some local run events down here. Like there's loads on the coast path. And also then joined a run club. That taught me a big deal about training. So yeah, it just sort of spiraled. But in that running club, there's also loads of people there that do all these races all across the UK and beyond, and it just sort of opened my eyes of like, you start going to different events, you talk to people, and oh yeah, it's kind of cool. Like I thought to me, like this 50-mile run was just like as high as you could get, like that's as far as it goes. And then you're like, oh no, but there's the 100-mile event on the same weekend, and then there is a multi-day race on the other side of the world. Like it just completely opened my mind. And I think it probably took a few years to sort of spiral when I was keeping things local and tame. I'd go back to the lakes every year, but and got into a bit more of sort of, especially being part of the run club, like you get dragged into sort of the half marathons and sort of did it backwards in a way. Like I then started doing like the half marathons and the marathons, and getting a bit of speed and understanding training, but I always just reverted back to trails, and yeah, now it's just I'd say 100% trail.
Was there in the running club itself, was there kind of a split of people who did trail and road, because I know sometimes you can't. It all depends on the area that you're in, I guess, but you don't always find that kind of trail split of people. It might be more road focused. So were there people to kind of bounce ideas off and train with?
Yeah, definitely. And actually that was, I don't know if it's definitely not unique to the area, but sort of where the run club was, we'd do a lot of our training out on the roads and more for safety and things, but
Yeah.
very quickly you could be on trails as well. Like you could go from the clubhouse one direction and you'd be road, or other direction trails. So it actually, everyone sort of mixed it up. It was just almost natural. I didn't really think about it. But yeah, definitely as it's gone on, you sort of tend to form your sort of, I don't know, your training buddies, and sort of like, yeah, let's go out on the coastal path for a few hours or what have you.
So you said you kind of got into half marathons and marathons. I guess they were like road events. Do you still tend to enter anything like that, or do you mainly keep it just totally crazy ultra trail focused now?
No, I definitely do enjoy a shorter. I say a shorter. That's daft. A 5K actually kills me. That's my least favorite event because it's so quick.
Yeah.
But you sort of know the pain's going to be over quick. But I love that thrill. I love that thrill of being able to just race with all you've got. And I think with some reassurance, I can almost go into like a half marathon or lower and sort of just push and push and push. And I think, well, if hopefully I've got the endurance in me that I can hold on. I'm never gonna be amazing at those short events, or I mean any of the events, but I do enjoy that sort of thrill. And actually even last year, I think it was, considering there were no events happening in 2020, I think I did manage to squeeze a few in, and I think actually 4 of them, three or four, they were half marathons, and I loved it. It's just like that.
That's cool. Yeah, there is something about that. I think especially if you are someone that has built, like you say, if you've built your endurance anyway, you're not afraid of the distance, so you can really focus on pushing yourself at a different level in terms of speed. It definitely is a different sort of event. I don't do enough of them these days, but I still like to throw the odd one in just to push myself a little bit in terms of speed, so I can.
You can push yourself to the speed at like a 50 mile.
Well, there is that. There is that as well, but the shorter stuff does appeal sometimes. So yeah, you mentioned that you got a few events in last year. So 2020 obviously was a year where a lot of things were cancelled. We had to stay at home quite a lot. But I was looking at what you've been doing over the last year, and you did seem to get in quite a few different races. Was that just luck, or were you entering things when we could, I guess?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky actually, and just sort of timed things well. I mean, I got a couple in before we even knew COVID was the other side of the world at the point, and I got 2 races in back to back, and they were quite short ones. That was right at the beginning of the year, and I was thinking, God, I'm doing quite well. Like I'm feeling strong, and I can't wait for this year. And had a whole load stacked up, but I also was sort of going for it quite early on because I had a few races back to back quite early on in the year that subsequently obviously got cancelled, and then a few things that had got postponed I managed to like go and do when things lifted briefly. And also was keeping an eye just to see like what races were potentially going to go ahead, and managed to sneak in a couple that were maybe local down here. It was just sort of a watching game and a bit of a gamble too, sort of, well, there's nothing else happening, let's enter. I mean, it doesn't matter if it doesn't go ahead for me, like bad for the organizer obviously, but
yeah, sure.
just something to aim for.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to kind of keep, if you've got the fitness and you're training, then it's quite nice to be able to use it in a, in a competitive environment, or even a social environment to an extent, with all the measures that were put in place last year, and I guess will be this year as well. But you got some good results from what I could see as well. Few podium places, which was there was the Exmoor 50k.
Yeah, that was one. Yeah, down in Exmoor, and I think actually it maybe was in part because it was 2020 and many people were not entering the races.
I don't play it down.
I'm not giving back the trophy. That's for that. But yeah, I mean, that also is a bit of a thrill in itself. Like, to be honest, it was just so lovely to be in a bit of a social environment, sort of see a few friendly faces. Like, obviously everything was completely social distance and everything, and it was really well done. But actually that Exmoor one was very unique. I sort of went in with no expectations. The way they were doing it, and some of the events that were able to go ahead last year were following this protocol of sort of like staggered starts.
Yeah.
So me and my friend who went up, we were down to go quite early, and there were still quite a few people in front, well, a handful of people in front, but sort of I went off, and within the first mile had overtaken them, and then the rest of the race I was just waiting for people to come past me and never saw a person.
Really?
Which I had never ever experienced leading a race, and I obviously didn't win it overall, but that in itself was completely amazing and completely new, but also very difficult, because I mean, I was running along and thinking, God, all right, push yourself, but I had no idea where I stood. Like, if someone had started 2 hours behind me, and
Yeah.
sort of, like, I was stopping and taking pictures. I was like, this is beautiful, we're on the coast of Exmoor, this is gorgeous.
Nice. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
So would you say you preferred the staggered start to the normal kind of mass start off the line?
I think the mass start is the best. Like, it's just that thrill. Like, I get super nervous before a race, like I'm sure like many people, but also there's just something quite amazing about having so many people there and you're all going off. And I do kind of like the chase, so I like knowing that someone's in front of me and I like hunting them down. As horrible as that might sound, but like, sometimes you just need like a target. I'm not very good at, I never ever look at my watch, so I have no idea what my pace is. I'm not good at I'm not someone who can follow a pace or times.
Yeah.
If I can see someone ahead of me, I can chase after them, sort of thing. But then there also was the sort of, in the staggered start, it was super chilled. You just sort of rock up and go, and so I didn't feel sick or anything at the start.
Yeah,
I
found it quite interesting. Sorry,
did you get any races in and experience that?
Yeah, I did 2 sort of after lockdown, and yeah, one of them was in August, so it was quite an early one in terms of all the new measures, and there was a staggered start, and I quite liked it actually, because I went off towards the end, so I was one of the last set out, and then I was kind of catching people up, but because so many people had gone before me, like you say, you don't really know where you are in the pack, so yeah, I had no idea who I was racing against or where I was or anything like that, and in that one I actually ended up finishing second, but thanks. But I really enjoyed it because there was no pressure, and I didn't know I was in second place, so I wasn't in that mindset of having to push to keep, ensure I kept that place, because I didn't know I was in it. Whereas if you're racing head to head with people, you keep looking over your shoulder, you kind of mentally, that's quite tough as well, because I put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't know about you, but it kind of just took away all of that the pressure that I normally experience.
Yeah, probably put less pressure on myself than you, because I don't have the expectation that I could do so well, but I do definitely put pressure on myself, and I know exactly what you mean. It's almost actually like quite organic. It's just sort of you're testing yourself, like you have no idea where you're standing against someone else. You've only got yourself to go against, and I quite like that element. And luckily I don't think that we'll be going back to mass starts anytime soon.
No, true. It does become more of a time trial, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely and it's just amazing that they were able to put on a few last year, and with these measures, just like well done to the events companies, to be honest.
Yeah, it takes a lot of planning and preparation and effort. So yeah, they've done an amazing job. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of that this year. It'd be good to get back to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Just in terms of, so Exmoor, Maverick Peak District, that was another podium place, I believe, the Ultra.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that one actually. Oh, that was so fun. Yeah,
Was that good?
beautiful. Yeah, I've been to the peaks a few times. It actually was not too far a journey when I was living up in London, sort of on the train. So for a weekend run, that was really fun. But that Maverick race was in a totally different part of the peaks. And again, it was completely unexpected. It was sort of it had all of the measures in, so you never knew where you stood. Still, and it sort of was just like, just go for it. Just keep going and hang on. And it was just beautiful. It was really cool to like cruise through, but also there were a lot of familiar faces. So sort of, I mean, they distance everything super well, but it's sort of, you were able to see people at the beginning or the after in brief spells. And I think that was just so special. And I think maybe that also sort of egged you on a little bit, because there was that like that like race thrill, and also just the excitement of seeing people. You haven't seen people for months, and they're all of these familiar faces.
Yeah, no,
so yeah, surprising. But
it does make a difference. And then South Down to A50, you came fourth there, I think, which
yeah,
is impressive.
That one I would have liked to know where I stood, because I took my time, and I'm sort of, if I'd come fifth, I don't think it would have been so bad. Like, I had no expectations for South Downs 50. Like, it's
that's
such
an
a big race.
Awesome
You've done the
result.
100, haven't you?
I haven't actually. I was meant to do it last year.
That's what it was.
And it got postponed, and then I can't actually do it until next year now. So, because I'm going back to the lakes. So yeah, so it'd be
the Lake 100.
Yeah, back in for that again.
See you there.
Oh, you're doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I will see you up there. I'm looking forward to that one.
Me
at
too.
the end of July. But yeah, doing the South Downs would be too much.
Yeah, no, that's fair. They're very close. But next year I'll be watching you.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, I'm watching you and seeing if you get going for podium, I guess. But number one.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Maybe
that was one day.
But yeah, that was definitely sort of it was a total surprise to be fourth, but at the same time, and then looked at the times, and I think there was 10 or 15 minutes between the top four. So I was sort of like, oh, I stopped, and like I was talking for a few minutes, and then I like stopped and did this other thing for a few minutes. But then you think that, and you go, well, actually they were probably doing the same, like they probably stopped or whatever. If I was actually right next to them, they probably would have been way quicker. So
well, yeah, you never, that's one of the things, you never know, do you? And especially over such a long distance, there's so many things that can happen. I don't know about you, but I think that's part of the appeal as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It can take, a different turn. But no, they're super, amazing results from the last year. And I was just interested off the back of that. Do you find yourself pushing more for performance these days, or is that a conscious thing? Does that does your training evolve around that, and looking at these results and going, oh, next time maybe I could make that fourth into a third, for example? Does that play a big part?
I think so, because I am naturally very competitive. I can't, like, anyone who knows me, I can't lie. But at the same time, I love it. I love running and I love the races. And I've never had the expectations that I could compete competitively, if that makes sense. Like, you compete against yourself, or you can compete in like categories maybe. But yeah, definitely. I sort of took a few years of just going, okay, see where you can go, like physically, like where in the world you can go, but also how far you can go. Like I said earlier, like this 100-mile run just seemed completely alien to me, and then I actually went and ran 100 miles and survived and lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it might be humanly possible to do this maybe once or twice. But then I think from that, I sort of, because those events take so long, and also a lot of the events I've done have been mountainous, this sort of thing, like the length of time it takes to do these races or events, like just off your own back, that sort of, I found that really interesting, like how far you could go. But yeah, definitely now I sort of want to, I think there's only going to be like maybe a limited time where you can sort of go run quickly, in a sense. Like, that's not true for everyone at all, but yeah, I do want to see, like, now I feel quite confident with endurance on to a certain distance, that I sort of want to push it. So actually, at the South Downs Way 50, that was one of the things. It was just a test. Like, you've been just bimbling along all 2020 without any races to test your distance and things like this. And so I was just like, just run as much as you can and just see if you fall dead. But I felt fine.
That's awesome. Yeah,
so
nice. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
See how it goes. Do you put in a lot of training for these distances then? What's your average training week look like in the build up?
Yeah, I'm not very good at training as such. Luckily, I love running. So miles is not a problem. I can do the miles, I can do the hours. That's fine. But specific training, I have to do that with someone. I have to be held accountable. Luckily, got some good people down here, and so they've been getting me, and we've been doing like at least a once weekly like sort of a park run route, and just sprinting. So you're getting some speed work in and getting out and doing hill reps, and this sort of thing. And I do actually quite enjoy like strength training and this sort of thing. So I guess I sort of throw it all in there, but sort of in a jumbled mess. There's no sort of structure, and it's, oh, okay, I've got time this evening, let's do this, or what have you. But mainly it's a lot of sort of easy miles. But yeah, I'm to be honest, my main conscious thing is just, if I've got an event coming up, is don't get injured. Just don't get injured.
Do you get many injuries generally? Is it, or have you always kind of got away with it?
Yeah, like I think most people in sport, you sort of do pick up a few injuries along the way, and luckily I haven't had anything too traumatic, touch wood. If anything, I think I get like sort of sporadic little niggles that will typically crop up a few weeks before a race, and then on race day, touch wood, so far they've just disappeared. So I don't know if that's like a mental thing or what. But yeah, nothing too traumatic so far, luckily. But maybe I'm overcautious, and I'm not sure.
Overcautious or conditioned yourself to, doing more to running crazy distances. I mean, the strength work goes a long way to helping prevent as well.
Yeah, I think that's totally right, and that's something I've done more so over maybe the last year or a couple of years, actually. Sort of friends around me have sort of told me that these are things that you should do, but also, you know, following people and sort of do you know Ben Wood? You've met him?
No.
Okay, I thought you had. He does a lot of the Maverick events and things, and
Okay.
yeah, he's also a personal trainer, and so I was training with him up in London, and that
Oh,
sort of really
cool.
opened my eyes, going, okay, these are things that you should do.
No, that's cool. Sometimes you do just need a pointer of what to do and how to do it. And I think a lot of runners struggle with to do strength and conditioning work, perhaps because they'd rather be out running. So I'm
Yeah.
guilty of this half the time. You know, I'd much rather be out running. So I use all my time to run, and then I don't have any time to do anything else. But it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The running will
So,
win over a strength session.
oh, definitely. But no, you do need to do a mix of them both to, you know, to stay fit and ensure you don't get injured as well. And especially, I don't know if you find for more of the mountainous terrain, the hills, like having the strength work helps massively.
Yeah, definitely. And I sort of think now with the loom that we might be able to get back to some mountains one day, are you doing anything that I should be doing to get prepared?
I'm not giving away my secrets.
Tried.
No, no. I this year I have been trying to fit in more hills, if I can, just in preparation for the summer. I am fairly limited around here in how much ascent I can get into a run, but I try my best. I try and make every route have a few short hills in it, so just to keep pushing myself. But that's it at the moment, and then I might, depending on what happens, might look at some more sort of specific training in different areas, depending on what we're allowed to do. But it's one of
Yeah,
those
I
things
guess
at the
that
moment.
dictates, doesn't it? Limitations for sure.
Certainly does. So yeah, in terms of your racing and events that you've done, this is what I find interesting, because you've been all over the place doing different races. You've done multi-day races, and then about 18 months ago you did a crazy challenge, which we'll come on to in a minute. But where have your races taken you to in the world, and what's probably your favorite place that you've done an event?
Yeah, I have been quite lucky to come across the opportunities to go to quite a lot of amazing places. I mean, I think the first big thing I did was a multi-day that with Tribe, and it was not a race. It was just it was a challenge to raise money and for a charity, actually. And we ran from Bosnia to Croatia over 6 days. And we were all sort of, well, the majority of us there were novices, so, but that was a complete eye-opener, and it was quite cool to do it with a load of people in the same boat of going, okay, well, we've got to get from A to B, like it was cool to just realize, like, oh, you can do this, like you can go to these different countries. So yeah, I've sort of gone to quite a few cool places, actually, like the Wadi Rum desert over in Jordan. A favorite is definitely Chamonix, like the Alps. That they're amazing. They never let you down. Sort of, there's quite a few islands and things like volcanic islands. But definitely my favorite has got a place in my heart now is the Azores.
Oh yeah,
Which you've probably seen the Solomon training. They did a camp out there, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I got to do an event out there, and while it was a multi-day, again, it was an event, it wasn't a race, but while I was out there, I think it was like day 2 of the 6 days, I booked a race back in the Azores, because I was like, I love it so much already. But yet to do that, because obviously COVID then stepped in and postponed.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully in October now I get to go back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I've seen videos of the events out there and the training, and it looks spectacular. What is it about it that you like so much?
Yeah, I mean, if you get the opportunity, definitely go. I think for me it is the such varied terrain. Like it is mountainous. You have you go through different sections. Like 1 mile you might be going through a section that's like a jungle. The next minute you're going through fields and you feel like you could be in the Peak District or something. And then you're like looking into a volcanic crater, and you're running along the beach. It just has everything. It's super technical as well in places. There are just so many trails all around. Like I only went to one of the islands, but there just seemed to be endless amounts of trails. So it just had something for everyone. And it was just super fun. Like it just felt like a real adventure because you're going through all of these different environments and different terrains, and you could just be gone for hours and not see anyone, but see these amazing different animals or routes. And I just found it very fun.
Yeah, they sound spectacular. Every time I speak to someone about what they've been doing and where they've been going and had trips, I get told about different places, and now my list is just growing of places that I need to visit. I don't know how I'm going to fit it in, but that sounds pretty cool.
When all restrictions drop down, do you have the first place you're going to?
I don't actually. No, undecided. But I've got plenty of choice now, so yeah. I'm going to add that to the list because it does look amazing. And how was it running through the desert on like the multi-day ultra that you did?
Yeah, that was different. I would definitely recommend for people to go and, I mean, at least visit a desert. Like it is like nothing else, but I definitely feel like I've run enough sand for more than one person's lifetime, and I was only there for a week. But yeah, it was super surreal. It was so hot, but we were all in the same boat, and it was beautiful at the same time. It was so beautiful. I thought it would be sort of just endless sights of just flat sand, but it wasn't. It was bumpy in places, and you had these amazing rock formations. And so I guess the geology of it was actually super interesting. And then at night, like it was just the most rewarding thing because there's no light pollution. We were sleeping outside and you just can see the galaxy and all of the stars. Like wow. It was so peaceful, and it was really, really rewarding. And also because actually running across sand dunes and salt lakes is so tough that when you actually did complete this challenge, this 5-day race, you felt like you had conquered something for sure.
Yeah, wow, I'm not surprised. How did you find it, like getting up and going day after day on your legs in that kind of terrain as well? It must have been hard going.
Yeah, it definitely was. There are definitely a few days that started out walking, trying to get the legs back. But actually, interestingly, with that one, because it got so hot, I think it was like 2 PM, and it was a multi-day ultra, that actually the mindset was like something I'd never ever done before. Like you almost want to conserve your energy because you've got to get up and run the next day. But every morning I was like, with me and just like whoever else I was running with, because it was so, like, the camaraderie there was amazing as well. We were like, just run while we have a bit of cool. And then like sort of get to 1-2 o'clock and you're like, okay, we can hike for the next 10k, that's fine.
Was it a bit of a mental battle at all, that one?
Oh yeah, mentally that was a definite challenge. Like I remember going along with a friend, Jack, and we were sort of coaxing each other along, like chatting for a bit and then going, okay, let's run for a few minutes, let's run to that rock, let's run to that, or okay, let's walk, like I really need to walk. And it was actually interesting to watch other people. Like one day this lady came past, like she won the race, the female race. She was the sweetest lady, but also built like a rhino, like so strong. And one day I remember her like charging past, and she like muttered something, but at the same time she was like throwing up, she was crying, there was like liquid coming out of every orifice, and I'd never seen someone in such a state moving so quickly. And she got to the finish, obviously, like, and we got there, and the first thing she does go, "You okay, guys, how are you?" I'm like, no, how are you? Like, but it was just, and it was so interesting to watch that, because she was completely mind over matter. She was like, okay, I'm breaking it, I just need to get to that finish. Like, I don't think my mind could quite do what she was doing, but it was there was definitely elements where you could relate, of going, we just need to get through this. But at the same time, amazing place.
Yes, yeah. It sounds, you know, spectacular, and a really impressive achievement as well, to keep that going over multiple days. And you say you're in no rush to run in any more sand. You're not got your name down for MDS or anything just yet, have you?
Yeah, definitely not. Just yet, never. Sorry, never. It's enough here in Cornwall where you hit the beach, you go, oh no, it's PTSD.
So let's talk running the roof, which was your crazy challenge that you did fairly recently with a couple of friends, right? I remember hearing about this at the time, and I've since watched the film that you made, which was really cool.
Got to see the film. What did you think?
It was awesome. Yeah, no, it's really cool. It was, yeah. I mean, I'd heard about what you'd done out there, and before you watch it, you can't really picture it, but just watching it and seeing what you did and how it all went, that was it was really cool to see. And it looked like there was a lot of mind over matter in that one as well. So just explain what that was and how it came about, because it's something that had never been done before, right?
Yeah. So it was Jodie, my friends Jodie Braga and Gabe, they sort of, on a drunken night, actually, they were sort of out after a couple of drinks. They had been out running and then had a few drinks, and was sort of like, right, we want to do this big adventure, like, what should we do? And they sort of spun a globe and ultimately ended up landing on this place called Tajikistan, not knowing what that was or anything about it. And it seemed a bit bonkers and a bit out there, but also, okay, this is achievable, like we could go there. And then sort of over time, basically the idea was to run the Bartang Valley, which it's not been documented that this has been done. There's so it sort of was just a test to see if this could be possible. And so a bit further down the line, they got some, they sort of were talking about it with some friends who actually are behind Saucy Film, and they said, well, let's make this bigger, let's film this, let's document this. So then it became this idea to actually turn this journey into a documentary, and then they asked me to get involved as well, and they said, and I said yes without asking any questions at all, which is, I should have now in hindsight asked a few more questions.
I was going to say, how long did it take you to decide straight away? You were just, yeah, why not?
Gabe's a good persuader. He's very positive and tells you all the good things that are going to happen. But yeah, so this idea was to run this place called the Bartang Valley in Tajikistan, which is over 300k, and we did it in 7 days. But it starts at 1,500 meters ascent, and it climbs to nearly 4,500, which is very high. It's up there in the mountains. So we were literally just running uphill steadily for 7 days. My least favorite way. But yeah, and it was incredible. We sort of we were going along, and it's sort of this place that's I'd never heard of Tajikistan, and it's on the border of so we ran from sort of it starts from like the border of Afghanistan, and then we end up at the border of China, to give it some more context. But yeah, definitely go and look on a map. But
Crazy.
yeah, that was in itself was quite surreal, because we were sort of driving along up to the start of the Bartang Valley, or where we wanted to start, and we get out because there's this sign and it's saying Afghanistan, and the other side of this river where we were stood, that was Afghanistan, and there was like a sort of a dilapidated village that had obviously been like ransacked or what have you, or something, but there were also like bullet holes through this sign. And then while we were sort of stood there, this like brigade of like young army men, all with like huge guns, walk up to us completely harmless, like they just, that's what they do, they patrol the road. But it was a big sort of, I think I'd gone in almost like excited, consumed by the whole idea, not really knowing what to expect, and it's sort of that image actually was sort of like, oh yes, this is what everyone was saying about all the misconceptions about that area. But I never ever, and I think I can actually speak for the rest of the guys with us, we never ever felt uncomfortable or unsafe. Everyone was very welcoming who we did meet, and it was just a very humbling experience, but also beautiful, like amazing. And we met a few people along the way, not very many at all, but it was a really cool experience to be in this completely different landscape, different part of the world, and just being quite, well, very self-sufficient also, and doing something that had never been done was sort of a question of the whole time, well, can we even do this? Like we had some crew in cars, and that the cars were actually taking along like our water and this sort of thing, and like our camping equipment. And it was at points it was a question of, can the cars even get through here? Because it used to be like sort of an old Silk Road, and so it's not used anymore. So there were parts where even the cars actually couldn't get through, like it was actually easier to go along on foot. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess you have to watch the film to find out if we did.
It's a good film. Is it still available to download? Where's the best place to watch it?
Well, if you're in America or Canada, you can still watch it on Banff tour, but otherwise we're super excited because it's not going to be long now until it's available to download back in the UK. Awesome. But to get all the information, it's probably best to go to Running the Roof. There's a website, and people can sign up. There's that you can sign up to a newsletter, and so we'd send out more information when we know when things are going to be released. But yeah, it's actually, that in itself is really surreal. I mean, one, to be in a film was a bit crazy, but it actually took off and did the rounds around the festivals, and it was almost a little bit like, oh, there's no live, like you can't go to an actual festival. But if anything, I think the fact that everything went virtual meant that it took off even more, because even more people were able to access them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see it take
off
so well.
I can imagine. I got to see it. I can't remember how now, but I think it was when it was sort of premiered, possibly at one of the festivals. But yeah, no, it's really cool to watch and, you know, see how you did it. How long were you on your feet each day, kind of getting from place to place?
Really good question. I don't remember.
So it's a distant memory.
It feels like in some parts it feels like it was yesterday, and then in other part, and I forget when we did it, but yeah, I guess it was quite a while ago now. But yeah, we would sort of start, because we would start quite early, and again it would tend to get quite hot later on in the day, so we'd always try and start off quite early. Gabe and Jodie are definitely way quicker than me, so we didn't stick together. We worked that out quite quickly, because you're the same when you're running for such a long time. It's actually very difficult to try and go at someone else's pace. So there was the whole preconception that no, we're just going to do our own pace if we want to sustain this. But yeah, quite a few hours. I can't remember. There was different lengths of days as well.
I was just intrigued to cover that distance on the terrain, but obviously add in the ascent as well, and you're going uphill a lot. They must have been tiring days out.
Yeah, there were definitely days that sort of, and I think I can say this for each of us, that sort of discovered or nearly discovered our breaking points, maybe once or multiple times throughout that whole trip. Definitely for me, it was sort of, I think it was day 4, 5, maybe. I mean, yeah, you'll see my tantrums in the film. But yeah, mentally it was very tough, especially when you're sort of going for miles and miles and you've been doing that day after day. But in the most amazing, even though you're surrounded by the most amazing environment and you're there with great people, it still was a mental challenge, definitely.
What kept you going? What kind of inspired you to keep going?
I think I'm quite stubborn personally, but also I think we all felt that we had committed to something, to, like, there wasn't a pressure to finish it, like there really wasn't. We wanted to see if that was possible, but at the same time I think we felt that if we really, really wanted to find that out and prove it, like we would have to push through barriers or not, as the case might be. And really discover those breaking points. And I think personally that comes back to what I was maybe saying earlier, like I really like to discover how far you can go and what a human is can possibly do. And I think the brain is powerful. Like I think the mind is really, really powerful. I don't know what I felt. I still haven't quite worked out what I felt I needed to prove, but I felt like I needed to prove something.
Well, it's one way
what
to
kept me going each day.
But certainly one way to push yourself. How did you fuel it as well?
Fuel was definitely a key item, because we were, like you say, you're going for hours and hours, but also where we're climbing in altitude, you do tend to burn more. And when we were camping at like some of the higher peaks, like at 4,000 meters, it's freezing at night. Like the level of cold is next. So we were having sort of like freeze-dried food. So we had that for sort of dinners, and sometimes like we would have a pit stop in the middle of the day and even crack one of those out, just to get the calories in. But also like the typical things you would take along in an ultra, like you would have all the bars and in your bag. Tried one of the sponsors actually, which was a massive godsend, because it just meant we had this great, like, neat packed fuel that we could just get in as we go.
Nice.
And we did like, and a bit like a normal ultra, before we went out into the Bartang Valley, we did sort of a pit stop at a store to get a few essentials, and essentials being things like crisps and sweets. Really key, valuable fuel.
It's got to be done in any ultra, I think.
Yeah, you need these things to look forward to get you through. Maybe that was another thing that kept us going. Thinking, if we keep going, you might find the car with the food.
Yeah, certainly an incentive to get to the end when you're out there doing that sort of distance. So you say about pushing yourself further and further. Have you got any aspirations for some crazy long event or run or route that you want to do? Do you fancy doing like the backyard challenge, where you you're doing loops to do as many as you can. Does that appeal?
Appeal and fancy, no. But yeah, I think there is something in that. Like, I've got a few friends that really do well at the 24-hour events, and I find that fascinating. I really do. But whether I could do it personally, I don't know. I'm not ready to do it. I think there is also an element, maybe it comes back to my cautiousness in some senses, that I think that I almost have to be quite confident in my head that I could give that a good go, and I just don't think I've got it in me. I'm not sure. Like, I like time by myself. I'm not sure that I want that much time with myself yet in my own head.
You never know, you might enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe isolation actually has been a really good test. Maybe next year is the perfect time to go and do backyard.
We're gonna probably have a country full of ultra runners on our hands who are used to time on their own, and thinking about random things that come into your head when you're on your own.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think if anything, this is definitely gonna weave out of quite a few more ultra runners. And
well, if you fancy it, there is a backyard version in Suffolk near me where you kind of do loops for as many as you can. So I haven't. No, it clashed with something when I was looking at it. I do kind of fancy it. Maybe one day, we'll see. But I think the winner gets a golden ticket through to the original one in America. So
really?
yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, so you have to actually kind of want that. Like, if you want to win that, you want to do that again.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that is true. It's not a one-off, is it?
Yeah. See, in my head, I've got, if I'm going to do this, maybe once is enough. But yeah, I think one day, I'm not ruling it out completely. But yeah, one day I'd like to see how far you could go. I mean, I love that concept. I find it fascinating to watch. Like, it's, I don't know, in some ways it's on paper it sounds like the most mundane thing to watch, but I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's probably not everyone's cup of tea, but to those of us with a sort of ultra mindset, I think it certainly appeals.
Yeah.
Have you got any bucket list destinations or routes that you want to do? A bit like running the roof, that sort of thing. Any crazy trips?
Yeah, probably a bit like you sort of get 100 recommendations and the list is ever growing. And it's tricky as well because you sort of discover places yourself and you're like, I have to return there, like my thing with the Azores and the lakes even, and parts of Scotland. Like, I feel like I need to go back there. Like, but yeah, definitely there are some. There's a few. You keep seeing different races and sort of discovering like where else you could go. Even just today, I saw on Instagram, I forget his name. He's the team leader for Solomon, and he's really good at downhill running. But he was just filming himself running down this ridge line. Yeah, he's just running down this ridge line, and I was like, I don't even know where that is, but I feel like I need to go there now. But have you heard of Reunion, the island where you have the race, the diagonal? That's something that I really, really want to do.
That's cool. I have heard of it. Yeah.
Have you seen anything about it?
Not really. No. It's just a name that I've heard of.
Yeah, I just think it looks very, very technical, but also it's just it's like a mission to get there, and it's completely like, it's just so there's quite like not many people. Well, I don't know anyone I haven't personally spoken to anyone who's been there, so to me it feels like quite an adventure in that sense. Like, I like to go to like random places, like off the beaten track sort of thing.
Yeah.
That one's not. It's such a huge race, and it's actually such a big destination if you even live in France, because that's still a in what they call it, it's like the longest inbound flight or something, because it's
Is that
actually
what
French.
they say? Okay.
Yeah, so you can get on a direct flight from there. But
Wow.
yeah, that's definitely a place. I think also just like get over to the other side of the world as well, quite a lot more. I don't know, there's so much of the world that I haven't seen. I actually was recently given a book called Epic Runs of the World or something like that, and that I was just sort of flicking through, a bit like your list of going, want to go there, want to go there, want to go there, and always jotting down sort of recommendations. I've never been to the US actually, and some of their races look really fun. Have you? Like, have you done?
No, I haven't done any of the races over there, but they look amazing. There's all kinds of events you can go and do over there. So I have been over, but yeah, not for an event. So yeah, might be one to add to the list. I've entered the Western States ballot before and had my like one in a million chance, and didn't get anywhere with that.
We'll keep trying it.
Oh, definitely. So what's 2021 got in store? You've got the Lakeland 100. Is that going to be a big focus?
Yeah, definitely. I love going back there. One, it's a reunion, and especially this year will be. I did have a little sneaky aim. They have a sort of a 500 club. So if you do 5 of the hundreds, you get like sort of get an honorary 500 club. So I wanted to do that before I was 30, but and it would have meant, because I did a few of the 50 miles before I did the hundreds, it meant that I couldn't miss one. Like I would have to, but then COVID hit. So I think I'm now saying, okay, well, if I achieve it when I'm 30.
Well, that's good enough, I think.
I think that's a little, I like having the little goals within the goal. But that hopefully that trip to Azores, it's like it's 125k over 2 days.
Awesome.
So hopefully that will go ahead. And at the moment, there's a few sort of local ones and things. But what was looking at, just depending on what happens with the world, and just doing something quite big at the end of the year, of sort of, toying up of looking at Cape Town ultra, and then like using up the holiday that's all accumulated, and like a couple of weeks later and going and doing a race like out in Bali or something like this, something completely
nice,
out of my comfort zone, but also an amazing place to discover.
That'd be epic. I'm going to keep an eye out for what you're up to, because your photos and seeing all the places you go to is always inspiring. So I'm sure there'll be plenty more of it when we can get back out there and travel a little more, which will be good.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, yeah, and I've got a friend who made one of the really great moves of, before all this happened, she sort of moved out to the mountains in Chamonix, and she's working remotely out there. So I'm threatening to go and visit her every other weekend.
I wouldn't blame you if you did do that. It's a pretty epic place to go, and get some running in and some hiking, and just spectacular out there. So make the most of being able to visit if you can.
Yeah, we can, definitely.
Cool. Thanks very much for your time, Jodie. Where's the best place for people to keep up with your adventures and travels? Is it Instagram for you?
Yeah. Instagram is what I use the most, I'd say. And it's just Jodie Gauld, Gauld, Gauld. It'll be the profile with lots of running pictures.
Cool. And for anyone listening on the podcast and on YouTube as well, you can find out all about what we've been up to on Trail Runs UK on Instagram. Trail Runs UK on Facebook and trailruns.co.uk. And we'll be back with plenty more running inspiration and motivation through these stories, and lots more places to add to the bucket list as well. The more I do these, that list is growing and growing. But yeah, we'll be back again with some more content. So thanks very much, Jodie. Awesome to hear about your running and achievements and crazy trips around the world. I look forward to hearing lots more about them.
Thank you for having me here, Tom, and I'll be tuning in, listening, also jotting down all of those places to visit.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jodie. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.